Hello and welcome. Glad to have you along for 15 minutes. I'm Brian Solito, Executive Vice President of the Greater Columbus Chamber of Commerce, and I'm joined today by Peter Bowden. He's the President and CEO of Visit Columbus GA. Peter, thanks for sharing 15 minutes with us.
Hey, Brian, how are you this afternoon?
Doing good, and we'll jump right on into it. A lot of our viewers will recognize you, and they'll say, hey, that's that guy from the Visitors Bureau. Visit Columbus GA, that's the new brand. Talk a little bit about the purpose and the mission.
Yeah, well, Visit Columbus is the official destination marketing organization for Columbus. And really what that means is that we get up every day, come in, and our job is to promote Columbus as a destination for travel, whether it's leisure, meetings and conventions, those kinds of things that tell the story why Columbus has a great place to come and hang out.
I've always said that the work that you and your team do, and I know you've said it as well, tourism is economic development. How does that tourism aspect actually impact Columbus in the region?
It truly is one of those economic drivers for the city. We are tracking, in the last fiscal year, we tracked 2.3 million visitors into the destination for a variety of reasons, leisure being the top of that market segment now. Over $364 million of economic impact. Those 2.3 million visitors spent that kind of money while they were in the destination. And of course, that creates jobs, payrolls for those jobs, tax collections and hotel collections for the city. So it's a really great domino effect as it moves through the community and supports a lot of businesses.
I think when I tell people that we had 2.3 million visitors last year, 2.3 million, they're like, what? They're astounded by that number. That's a number that's pretty impressive, I think. I don't know about you. Do you find that an impressive number?
We're really proud of that. I mean, I remember when I first started at Visit Columbus, back then it was the Convention Visitors Bureau, we were always under that 1 million threshold. And when we would give out our annual numbers and reports to the media and so forth, the question always would be, when will you top that? When will you go over that 1 million mark? And now here we are at 2.3, and I think that's a phenomenal keynote to our hospitality community, the fact of the reputation that we have as far as being a destination where hospitality is a real thing.
Well, I think that figure is a good segue into the COVID-19 effects that it's going to have on tourism, especially as it relates to visitors. Talk a little bit about that. I assume you're sensing that 2.3 is probably not going to be achievable in 2020, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right. It's going to be a totally different way of tracking things, and we began early on when we realized that this virus was beginning to impact not just Columbus but worldwide. We began asking those questions of ourselves, and we began tracking a number of events. And I'll refer to some of my notes here to help me tell that story. Is that year to date, since we began this in February, we are tracking 96 groups. These are meetings and conventions or events that have either postponed or canceled because of the virus. Represents a little over $12 million economic impact or loss for the city. So just in that short period of time of those few weeks, you can see that it really is going to change how we measure what visitation is to Columbus. The good news out of all of that, though, is that because of my team working internally and working with other venues, we've been able to rebook 26% of those groups. So that's not a total loss. So we're looking at a really strong fourth quarter for the calendar, and obviously a really good 2021 when we emerge from this. And of course, that's assuming that there's no surprise as we flatten the curve and move through the infection rate here in Georgia and throughout the United States.
Well, that certainly is positive. You know, I was thinking back to the work that you and I have been doing together as it relates to the hotel rooms in downtown Columbus. You know, we've got 3 hotels under construction. The Marriott across the street from the Trade Center is currently closed. However, that is allowing a major renovation to occur, probably at a faster pace than it would have. I felt like we were on this roll, and then we got hit by this virus. But it sounds like you're still very optimistic, without any surprises, that we can get kind of back on track.
Sure, absolutely. And we actually have a plan that we have paused specifically for that hotel, downtown, uptown hotel development that you just referred to. So that's being paused right now until the consumer is ready to begin that process of rebooking conventions. Of course, like I said earlier, the leisure market is really strong for Columbus. Columbus is also a strong drive-to market, meaning that based off of some of the trends that we've been following, is that we should see a quicker rebound than some other destinations because we're not totally relying on air travel or mass transit. So this pent-up demand that is happening because people can't, because it's stay in shelter, or shelter in place rather, is that what we feel like that will happen is that there will be this huge rebound once folks are allowed to move around. Columbus will be one of those favorable destinations. So leisure will be one of those markets that come back first. And then once meeting planners begin that process of looking for cities to book into, cities like Columbus will probably be at the top of that consideration, again, because of how we have positioned ourselves, the fact that we do have this new infrastructure coming on play. So we'll stand out a little bit differently, I believe. And then as we talked about, is that there is a plan. We can turn that plan back on to reach back out to that customer, that mix, and create that awareness and drive demand for those hotels from the meeting aspect as well as the other market segments that Columbus tracks.
Well, I know your partner at the Columbus Trade Center, Haley Tillery, has been keeping me in the loop as it relates to things that they're planning to doing, especially as it relates to a higher level of cleanliness and just all these protective measures that conference goers are really going to be expecting. I was mentioning to you offline that conferences and associations that I'm a part of, they've kind of pulled the plug and looking when they can have these events. I think that people are going to have to feel this sense of safety and security, whether that's a vaccine, an antiviral, some sort of level of testing, because the reason you go to a conference is to have actual interaction with other people,
right.
and this
right.
really upsets the apple cart, doesn't it?
It does, and you're absolutely right. There's going to be a new psyche with all travel, not just with meetings, conventions, but all travel. The social distancing is going to be with us for quite a while. As it relates to meetings, you touched on it. The buildings are going to have to demonstrate where they are constantly in the process of cleaning. There'll be limited gatherings in a room. Instead of putting 100 people in a room, you may see 50 or whatever the math works out to be. Again, there's some guidelines that are in place to help deal with that. And then from the leisure aspect, what we've been following is that it's going to be adventure travel. It's going to be people looking to do things outside. They're not going to rush to go into a theater or rush to go into a museum until they kind of get over the sense of that everything's going to be okay. And then again, buildings are going to have to demonstrate a lot of preparedness for that. But we feel like, again, because of whitewater and zip lining and our trail systems and all the other outside infrastructure that we are fortunate to have as part of our aesthetics or appeal here in the destination, that will be very attractive for folks looking to get out with their families and travel again and just get away and turn their minds off to all this that we've been through so far.
I was thinking that you're probably not ready to declare that Chattahoochee River water actually kills COVID-19, are you?
No.
Not yet. Still too early.
Right.
I'll get you out of here on this one. Restarting the tourism economy. I mean, that's got to be the focus, I guess, for the next many months for you all.
It is. We're actually winding up what we're calling our mitigation phase, where, like so many of us, we've been exposed to so many webinars and talking with various consultants to learn best practices about what we can adopt to make work for our destination. So as we out of that, we're beginning the rebound or the restarting process, and that'll be a phased in approach. It will be determined by a lot of factors. Timeline is one of the main things. We're looking at a possibility for June of turning this machine back on, mid-July, maybe late August, fall, and then even a scenario for 2021 if we have to push out that far because of the unknown. And then a lot of the things that we'll be dealing with is we will transition again from local awareness, where we've changed our messaging to a local audience to be a positive resource for people who live in Columbus and the area. We'll refocus again outward and begin to create that awareness of being a great destination for travel. And that will be phased in over different platforms as well. Primarily, we're going social because we can control that, and with dollars being impacted by things we talked about earlier about hotel occupancy and so forth, and of course, being funded primarily with hotel motel tax, you can only imagine the unknown that's coming from that. So we have a lot more control of that, and our team is really working strong now. We've had several meetings just this week to begin that process of building that calendar out and telling those stories so that we have that strong appeal regardless of the audience and the mix that we begin to talk to when it comes to telling our story as Columbus being a great destination.
A lot of work to do, and we appreciate the efforts of your team and your leadership, frankly, Peter, for navigating these unexpected, uncharted territory that we find ourselves in. And of course, our thoughts and prayers for all of those who are actually physically and emotionally being affected by this and being hurt by this. That's all the time we have, Peter. I want to thank you again for joining us, and thanks for tuning in for another 15 minutes.